ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್. ಈ ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ನ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಕವರೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಆ ಸೆಷನ್ನ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಪ್ರಯೋಗ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಆ ಫುಲ್ ಎಪಿಸೋಡ್ನ ನಿಮಗೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾನು ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಫುಲ್ ಎಪಿಸೋಡ್ ನೋಡಿ. ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್. ನಿಮಗೊಂದು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಗಾರವನ್ನು ಕಾನ್ಫೆಡರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಇವರ ಸಹಯೋಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಲಾಗಿದೆ ಹಾಗೂ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಗಾರದ ಆಯೋಜಕರು ನಟರಾಜನ್ ವಿದ್ಯಾಸಾಗರ್. ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿ ಇವೆಂಟ್ಸ್ನ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮರ್ ಆದ ಅನೂಪ್ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರನ್ ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರನ್ನು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಗಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ.
Welcome to the 16th Bengaluru International Film Festival and today's Film Academic Workshop. I'd like to begin by welcoming Mr. Natarajan Vidyasagar, the curator of today's events. Now I invite Anup Chandrasekhar, Film Academic Events Programmer, to present a memento to Mr. Natarajan Vidyasagar as a token of appreciation.
Co-founder of Cube Cinemas, who have driven only by innovation in the last 3 decades. They are doing extremely great things in AI at this point of time, and he will share the perspective on the future of cinema through the lens of AI. And then we have Professor Raghunath, our IM Bangalore Professor of Strategy, who has his own course for entertainment industry, media and entertainment industry, an annual course, and who has been tracking this media entertainment industry. Very few professors in India do it, and he has been doing it for the last 25 years. Welcome, sir. We're thankful to Bangalore International Film Festival for giving one whole day the rise of AI in filmmaking, which is the talking point across the globe, and the most talked about subject today. We will have first Viren talk about creativity and imagery. Senthil will talk next on future of cinema through AI, and Professor Raghunath, who has seen many innovations being deployed over the last 2 decades. Let me begin with Viren.
Okay. Volume ನೀವು increase ಮಾಡಿ. ನೀವೇ ಕೊಡಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ. ಫೀಡ್‌ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ಫೀಡ್‌ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಓಕೆ.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹತ್ರ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಮೈಕ್.
Good morning, Namaskara. It's clear from the back?
Yes.
Thank you. How many of you here make films or television or any content? How many people make? Fantastic. We are in the right auditorium. Thank you so much, sir. So, the easy thing in the business of film is to watch film. This is the easy part. The difficult part in films is to make films. So, we are here with the people who are doing the difficult things, which is to have an idea and then make it a production and look at everything from creative to technology to production to financial management, distribution, and so many things. So I'm going to give you a broad overview from my point. I'm really here to hear the questions that you have. Please give us enough time for the question answers. That is more important. But there are 3 broad categories in which I think we can have today's conversation in the time that we have. Number 1 is, how is AI going to help in the finishing of the film? Most of you know that when you create it in the traditional format, most of the things happen both at the ideation stage and then at the edit stage. That is how it has been for many years. Today, I think you are beginning to edit a film even at the beginning. And what do I mean by that? That there are visualization tools. There are visualization tools which will help to actually create a film before it is seen. This is the magic of the last 5 or 10 years, where you are looking at setting an entire film, for example, inside VR, and really making that the way in which you, before you spend the money, you are very clear that you have translated the script or the idea or the director's vision, the cinematographer's vision is all there in front of you before you start spending all the money for the film. The options to do that will be tremendously increased by AI because AI helps the iteration. Secondly, how do you generate images? So the second category is the generation of images, where you are going to be assisted by references and tools and templates, etc., which will, though AI is about prompting the AI, but the iteration of AI will prompt you to make the film. So it's a two-way prompting process. And the third is productivity. If any of you have made a film in the last year or two, and if you had some tools that made it 20-30% more efficient, that's the amount of money you would have saved. And that is what everybody looks for in the future. Because we know how expensive the process of making film is, and we know how difficult it is to recover that money. So while we make 800 or 1000 films in India, we know the difficulty in making those films or television series. So that's broadly what I want to do. I want to basically say what is happening, what does this mean for you in the next step. Number one, doesn't matter whether you're a small, medium or large filmmaker. The future for you in the next 5 years, it may be earlier, it may be later. The future for you is that you can access almost the Hollywood level tool sets that you could not access before and could only be done by very large companies who have to invest millions of dollars producing those tools, those pipelines, those computer graphics technologies. Those will become more accessible. So I do believe that the biggest thing that we look forward to is how you can slightly democratize and make tools available to all of us, no matter whether you're a large, medium or small company. The second is, I do believe that AI is not here to replace artists or filmmakers or technologists, the technical team. It is here to inspire and open you to more possibilities. And what do I mean by that? Today, if you make, those of you, how many of you have used visual effects in your film, please? Almost everybody. See? So today when you use visual effects or you get people to make visual effects for you, or you created a fully animated film, there are almost 12 to 14 skill sets, right, in that. Starting with roto, prep, paint, modeling, texturing, lighting, animation, effects, etc., compositing. All of these things require a lot of manpower. They require a lot of manpower. And what happens is, none of those will be fully replaced by AI, at least in the next 3 to 5 years. So let us take, for example, roto. Roto has already got many tools that are helping to make roto faster, or make roto simpler, or make roto automated. But ultimately, they're going to bring you to a level. They're going to bring you to a level of 50, 60, 70% of what you need to do. The rest will still be done. So if I was just a roto artist, for example, or if I'm just a modeler, and I have the AI tools, what it will help me to do is to make sure I create the beginning and the end the way I want it, and some of the automation will take place inside. So when I started in animation 25 years ago, it used to be the 2D animation on paper. And you did the keyframes, and then a lot of people did the cleanup, and then a lot of people did the in-betweens. So what happened when we got automation in 3D and the tools came out, etc.? Those in-betweens and the cleanup was taking place with the software. So I would say that analogy, that example I'm using, that the same things are likely to happen with AI, where the artist who is doing much more manual work, he or she will be able to upgrade themselves to do much more of the visionary and thinking work and the finishing work, whereas the AI will create what other people used to do for that. So will there be less people in those functions? Possibly. But those people will now be able to create many more films, and I think the industry will grow. So for example, I give this example very often. Now Mufasa is out on screen, as you know, done with very high tool sets from NPC. 7-8 years ago, it was Lion King. The difference in technologies between Lion King and Mufasa are dramatic. Maybe there are 2 revolutions of technology between that. But go back to the 2D Lion King, done about 30 years back, I don't remember the time. long time ago. At that time, if you see the movie credits even today, you will find the hundreds of people who worked on the 2D movie. And if you see the 3D movie, there are hundreds of people who worked on the 3D movie, in spite of fantastic automation that took place in the tool sets between one and the other. So effectively, I think we have to imagine the future exactly in those terms. And what does automation do? Automation basically makes sure that the skill sets that are more manual oriented will have to become more thought oriented. And I think that's the future for what we need to do. And you'll see in the future panels that our curriculums, our development of the skills at the primary level, at the business level, at the production level will go that direction. I will end with 3 or 4 points. Where is AI already working in filmmaking? So number one, it has made a big difference to script writing and pre-production. So there are many tools. Many of you would have, I've used OpenAI and ChatGPT and Scriptbook, and there are many tools there which help you to look at what are the kind of things that will probably excite the audience. Ultimately, as a filmmaker, the way when I see a product, I see 2 things happening. As a filmmaker, you are seeing what is happening inside the frame and the film, but you have to also be conscious what is happening outside of the frame of the film. Because your success depends on the audience's reaction, the awe, the wonderment, the excitement. Are you hitting the spot with them? What creates a blockbuster? It is the reaction to the film. So yes, if you're making a festival film or you're making a film to win a national award, that may not be so important because the critics should like it. But if you're making a commercial film or a television series, then it has to hit that. And what hits is what is outside the frame, what is being perceived by the people, right? So I'm talking to you today. You are perceiving something from what I'm saying. What I'm saying is important to 50%. How you're looking at this applying to you is the balance 50%. And the success of this talk is what you perceive of it and not what I'm saying. I think it's the very same for film. I wanted to make 2 points about this. So what is AI therefore in my opinion? AI, if you go back to people who are painters, they have a big palette of colors. And they dip their brush and they make those colors work for them on the screen. When I was coming here, I was having a conversation saying in a shop window there is a color called teal, right? The teal came and became popular, and today people put it on their cars because it is creating something outside of the car. And that's what we want. So AI is like a palette. AI is like a palette which is basically taking history of data and remixing it for you. And the way you prompt it, it will remix it in that way for you. From there you have to take it to the next step. And I also feel that the questions that I was asked in the last session, I will tell you that. AI is not just transforming how we make the film. We have gone from paintbrushes to pixels. It is transforming the way you see and create art. So for example, today, if you look at new markets, India has been constrained by the number of theatres. We had the same number of theatres as China when I came into this industry after 30 years of working in other industries, 25 years of working in other industries. And what I saw was we had very few screens, but China had the same number of screens. Okay, and then after that, China today has 15 times the number of screens that India has. They have 15 times, I'm roughly speaking. So what constrained us is distribution, which came with television, and I think that made a big impression. And of course, the OTT is now taking that in that direction. But the distribution in our country is far less than the people who are there to create the content. So hopefully, AI will also create ways by which people will be able to access what you do through the new technology of the future. The haptics, the wearables, the glass, all kinds of things, the screens. The biggest opportunity, I think, for all filmmakers is to look outside of a screen, to look at public spaces, to look at where the screen is surrounding you. I think that is the future where AI can really help you. We're lucky to have worked on projects for the Dome in Las Vegas, and as Mr. Senthil will point out, the technology there is amazing because you have a 480,000 square foot of LED, and you're creating almost a 250 degree kind of a story. It is at 16K by 16K because it is far away. 17,000 people are sitting inside the dome. The height of the dome is equal to Statue of Liberty, and you still have to create that wonderment and that excitement. So we've done about 8 to 10 projects, so far, and fingers crossed we will hopefully do more in the future. But it's very important to understand how image making, I don't say film making, I keep having a discussion with my good friend that how have we gone from film making to image making, and image making will change audio visual everywhere in the world. So with these words I will pause and tell you that the areas where already you can use it, please try and use it, not for your next film but keep playing with it, is in the writing and the pre-production. It is in the way in which you will use CGI and VFX in an automated manner. Embrace it, because there are lots of things that are happening there. We invented certain things and made it open source during Jungle Book and Lion King. It then became amazingly used.
Is this clear? So, Viren has, I have to thank him for covering extensive part of what we're going to talk about, and we do need to leave enough time for a Q&A, so I'm going to keep, I say, fairly short. I'm looking at things from a slightly different context of what happens to cinema. And clearly, we humans love stories. Everything that we do in our history is about stories. Money is a fiction, a story that we've all created for ourselves. Government, democracy, everything is a story that we tell ourselves. And as long as all of us believe and agree to the same story, it's what happens in our lives. And so stories will continue. Now, with the change that technology has brought, we saw already that in the transition from film to digital shooting and the change from film to digital projection, movie making became much more democratized, as Biren was saying. That we have the ability for anybody to go out and make a very high quality movie. I recently saw a demo which at the Hollywood Professionals Association in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, where there was a smooth intercut between very high-end film camera, digital film cameras, to lower-end prosumer cameras to the iPhone, and it was so seamless that none of us professionals could make out that difference at all. And so, the one point is that democratization means that there is no loss in quality as we go forward and make better and better movies. So anybody with a great story can make a so anybody with a great story in their heads can make a movie. And AI is accelerating that change like we could have never imagined. The principles with which the AI today is operating were principles that were kind of expounded back in the 70s. But the computing power to make that a reality is something that became available only a few years ago. And what we are learning and modifying and improving is quite mind-blowing for all of us. Who would have thought that there'll be somebody who's pretty much a peer that you're talking to, that is just bits and bytes. But one thing is, there is a bounding box for what we have created in this technology. And that bounding box is all of the material that we have put out in the internet and otherwise in digital form for it to learn from. And so we are kind of still constrained by that, and which is why I quite agree that creativity is not something that's going to come from today's form of AI. And maybe there'll be other things that emerge, and probably, in fact, almost certainly, there will be things that emerge with greater and greater creativity, and we can anticipate a time in future when that will happen. But today what we have are tools that enhance what we can do, that work in partnership with us. So, given that, we've seen, I'm an avid fan of science fiction, and we've seen from some of the most amazing science fiction movies over the years, visions of things that were supposed to come in the future and which we've already seen happen. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey, sure the timeline was different from where we are, but In that movie, you saw an iPad equivalent. You saw you saw the HAL 9000 computer that spoke to us. But we are seeing all of that today. And we also saw what happens to an AI that is hallucinating or misguided in that same film. Who would have ever thought that that can be absolutely a reality today? And now that same movie got something terribly wrong, which is video calls. They didn't think of the internet because that was a bit little too early for conceiving what the internet will change in life. So they didn't think of everybody being able to make a call wherever they go. There was a video phone in that movie, and that looks kind of terribly outdated, but nothing else in that movie feels like it can't be a reality in a few more years. The timeline, yes, again, it's still a little wrong. Then you can see Star Trek, which is several hundred more years ahead in the future. You can see things in between, like Minority Report, or where personalized advertising targets every single person as you walk by. So there are, and then there's Ready Player One and the immersion into virtual world. So what is the form that things are going to move to? We already have gaming, places where we control the action and we compete to get to whatever is the goal of that game. And we compete with others in that, making that also a social experience. So one thing about humans is that apart from stories, they love the social experience. So if you look at Ready Player One and that future, maybe with the right goggles, or maybe even better with the right direct neural stimulation, where we see Neuralink and others like it already making the first steps towards both reading and writing to your brain cells directly, and therefore being able to create a vision in your head that is as good as reality and at the highest resolution that you can already see. So that is one possible vision where you can have stories that you are a participant in. But there is also a strong trend from the beginning of human existence, as far as we can tell, where humans like to listen to stories, a passive experience. And that's the movies that we're talking about. Cinema is the passive experience, where you make yourself a slave to the screen. You come into a dark room with a number of other people, you get their emotions, but you watch what's happening on the screen together, and you like it or you dislike it kind of together, influencing each other in your moods. That social experience is something that we've all come to love. So where will that social experience go? Sure, the direct neural stimulation can also bring other people who are there into the experience. So that is possibly one path. But directly influencing things like the holodeck and being in a scene like how you saw in Star Trek, is that something that's probably what games will evolve into, where you have complete control, you're in the action, you can feel things, but they can't, and they can hurt you, but they can't harm you irreparably, with boundaries that save you when you do so it doesn't actually kill you. That kind of thing is definitely the future of gaming. But the passive experience might expand well beyond our 2D cinema of today to something more participatory. But I think the aspects that will remain are the passive and the social. But one thing is that stories can be told, and you would have already seen some examples, or there have been examples coming out over the last few weeks, of how you can replace an actor, you can change the language, you can change the scene, but have essentially the same words or the same words in some other language. So you can make a movie, a story that you creatively define, rendered for each viewer in a different way. So you could have a story that is it could be a Hindi movie that is in Kannada here, it is in Tamil in Chennai, it is in Malayalam in everywhere in Kerala, or Spanish or Portuguese. It could be in any other language, And maybe the culture also can be modified according to that, because AI is now intelligent enough to do these kinds of things, to translate, to move the cultural context from one to the other. And these things will make the story seem utterly like it's set in the place that you're imagining, but it will be a story that was defined. Let's say that somebody here made a story. It could be seen by some Spanish-speaking audience in Mexico or Spain in their complete context. So that's one possibility that is opening up, and is opening up pretty rapidly. Already today, AI is helping us translate movies, translate subtitles, create audio descriptions of movies for the visually impaired. So it's helping us in ways that speed up our own creativity and as a tool. But that taken to the ultimate is what I'm saying, that where the movie will be rendered for each set of audience or each particular person. And that's probably something that will still be a passive experience, but will expand our audience truly around the world. These are some of what I'm thinking, but I hope there are more questions from the audience and we can discuss some of this in more detail. Thank you so much.
I think one very important point was made, two very important points were made just to this. I think, the AI story in audio has already far exceeded what is happening in the AI story of video. So today, as you know, a lot of the bigger films are looking at multi-language and have been looking at multi-language. That will improve, but it is not perfect. I saw last night or yesterday or day before the interaction between Trump and Zelensky, and in big channels who can spend a lot of money, the words coming at the bottom are nothing.
For fascinating insights on where the cinema is heading, especially with AI and tech, and we'll get more of you in the question and answer session. Now over to Professor Raghunath.
Thank you. Those were very illuminating thoughts and words. So I have been thinking about this because I also do some work on AI and analytics-based businesses in other industries, and I've been checking out what's going on in the world of entertainment. Fundamentally, if you look at our approach in any markets, we create something so that there are people to actually consume it, right? Otherwise, you don't create what we call as films or movies or whatever content we create. So fundamentally, to drive an ecosystem, there are three fundamental questions all of us ask. First is, who can make content? Right? Big question for the longest time. Who will consume content? So that's the who part. Then what this content is about. I like the way you said, if you like sci-fi or if you like fantasy or period movies. That's an honor. That's an offering, right? And it's driven by certain values, production values. And then there comes the third part, which is about the how of it. That is, how will we create it? And how will it be consumed? So if you look at all that is happening, and it is wonderful that human beings around the world have got us to a point where the how, which is a headache sometimes, the hard, it's a slog. All of us who are in this area of work understand that. It is being simple. There is more accuracy in terms of what we need versus what is possible, right? So the how piece is being addressed very well. I mean, as far as we can see, we are observers of what is happening, right? So the how piece of what can be done quickly and in a manner in which it will enhance the effect is being taken care of. That brings us to the first question. Who can make movies and who will consume them? For the longest time, all of us who have been in this industry, we all have had wonderful scripts. And our life has been spent in running behind funding bags, right? I will not use any other word, but funding bags, right? Where are the sources of finance which will deliver what we want? If you don't check, as they were saying, if you were to check Runway Gen 2, or you want to check what NVIDIA is offering, right? All of these are enabling even the smallest of these teams and groups who come together to entering the world of filmmaking, which I think for the longest time was always a scramble around, can we really start, can we really start, can we really start. Number one. Two, the what of it. What kind of content can we tell? I think we are so fortunate that AI has entered filmmaking, though there has been a lot of protests and that is taking away a whole host of things. And my reaction always has been mental. That all of us have gone on flights, right? All of us. There's not a single human being who has not taken a flight. Do you know when computers took over flying? 1972. Have pilots been eliminated? Never. Yeah, but pilots have been eliminated? Never. So this idea, oh God, what this will do to all of us, I think that's just a fear, a reaction to, it is. A reaction to saying, what will happen to, no, nothing will happen to you. You will be supported. You will be enhanced in your abilities, your capabilities, by these tools which are after all subjugated to what we want. The producer, the director is the final authority who will decide whether or not a certain suggestion, right, will really work or not. So that's not going to go away. But what I think is going to happen, I mean, this is just a thought, the what of it. Stories have always been subjected to human imagination. Right? Human imagination cast in a certain geography, a certain context. Even if you take our homegrown movies, the one which, as far as I remember, Kannada, which took off and everybody wondered what happened to that. It had elements of mythology, sociology, economics, emotion, family, a whole host of things, right? What AI is going to do, in my view, because especially when you said sci-fi and fantasy and period films, it is going to enable us to really tell true stories. In all plot structures, all of you know where it begins, what is the challenge, how difficult it gets, and finally there is a resolution. Whether you take human beings in very civilized areas like metros and whatever we have, versus areas where we have never seen human civilization, we also wonder where we are and where they are. We don't even know what kind of existence people have. We don't know the diversity of the challenges other animals face. We don't know how to appreciate ecology. We don't know how to appreciate animal life. All of them have a story plot and a story structure. And it is the first time, my view is that technology is going to enable all of us to see what is so interesting, what is so very intelligent in the diversity of this world. And in my view, filmmaking is about actually celebrating diversity of any thought process, of any situation, any context, any philosophy. That's the best depiction that a movie can give to a human being who is wondering, how will I be not bored, but I would be enthralled by this, isn't it? So, I think this is the point of explosion. The idea that markets are confined only to movie halls, that will not work anymore. Absolutely not. Why? Because when you ask the question, who is consuming, not just who is making, that human being is always mobile. And we all know about Bangalore traffic, so we don't want to talk about it, right? We may have the aspiration, but we may not reach where we want to. So the point here is that when we can see the change in the dynamics of a normal human being in any societal strata, any layer, today we can reach content. For example, I will not mention one other entity was saying that how do we really enhance movie viewing in areas where we are creating a lot of nature-based stories. And my answer was, how many of us are studying and getting data on families taking time for touring the world, going to destinations? How much free time those families have? Do we have any stories, any viewing areas which create that ambience, that effect and that engagement in those destinations? We don't have. Because our view is always truncated. It's not a systemic view saying that here is a consumption guy, here is a human being who has a lot of money. Here is a human being who doesn't have a lot of money, but he has nothing to do. There are countries where there are automated lanes for truck drivers. It's centrally controlled. The trucks go, they have to, like good pilots, keep once in a while looking at any change. What are they doing? Consuming entertainment. We all know about auto rickshaw drivers. We know all of them. What are we doing to take this wonderful technology which is coming up in front of us to change our view about how long the content should be, how short the content?
ನೋಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಎ ಐ ಸೆಷನ್ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದೇನು ಅಂದರೆ, ನೀವು ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ಸರ್ಕಲಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀನಿ, ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ನರಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಹಿಂದ್ಗಡೆ ಒಬ್ರು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಕೂತಿದ್ರು. ನೀವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೋ ಇಲ್ಲೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದರೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನನ್ ಅದರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ ಲೆಜೆಂಡ್ರಿ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಸಾಯಿ ಪ್ರಕಾಶ್, 100ಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದವರು. ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ಬಂದು ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ನ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್ನ ಗೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದಾಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ಥರ ಬಳಸ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾವ ಥರ ಅದರಿಂದ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತಲ್ವಾ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೆಷನ್ನು OTTs ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಎಪಿಸೋಡಲ್ಲಿ.